Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered on PC. I've been testing on this on my RTX 3050 Ti laptop, and more importantly, for all of us living that 4GB VRAM life, this video has got you covered. This time, the port is better, but not perfect. There are still some weird choices under the hood, shader compilation being one of them, that can mess with performance if you are not careful. So in this guide, I'll show you what to tweak, what to skip, and how to get clean visual without melting your laptop or 4GB VRAM. Let's get started. Let's kick things off by comparing DLSS, FSR3 and XeSS side by side. You will notice they are all struggle with aliasing on the ground while moving. Even though they help with the FPS, none of them fully fix the shimmer in this situation, which is a bit disappointing. Next, let's compare regular DLSS, the older CNN model, against the newer DLSS transformer, and this is where things really start to look better. The transformer version significantly reduces ground shimmer and delivers sharper, more stable image overall. If you are on an RTX card, this is the version you should use. Now here is a look at DAA, DLAA, FSR and XeSS. All of them show some shimmering, but DLAA is a bit more stable. It just looks softer when the camera moves. FSR and XeSS show more aliasing during motion, so your choice depends on whether you prefer sharpness or smoothness. Here where it gets interesting, DLAA versus DLSS transformer on quality mode. Visually they are close, but performance wise DLSS transformer gives you a solid boost. So if you are aiming for 60 FPS, DLSS transformer wins, hands down. Finally, here is how the game looks with anti-aliasing turned off compared to SMAA and TAA. Without any AA, the jaggies are rough, especially on the edges. SMAA gives a sharper image and TAA can look a bit blurry depending on the movement. Alright, let's talk about some settings that might just be vibing without doing much. Dynamic skin space shadows is supposed to improve dynamic lighting, but I didn't find any big visual difference. I would say keep it enabled just in case. Real-time cloud shadow reflection also showed no difference when turned on or off, so I left it on by default. Reflection quality, which should affect light bending through glass and water, didn't seem to change anything visually or performance-wise. I kept it on medium. Screen space reflection, same story, no visible change. So yeah, if these settings are doing something, it's very subtle, just leave them on or set to high, they don't really cost much. Now let's move into level of detail. Dynamic objects include things like cards and crates. The biggest change was from low to medium, but going past that didn't matter much. I recommend low or medium. Next is character level of detail. It made a bigger difference in crowded areas. Low to high was fine, but very high dropped FPS hard, so high is the sweet spot. Then environment level of detail. It affects trees and plants. It looked better on high, but for stable performance, medium or high is ideal. Alright, on to textures. First is dynamic object texture quality. It didn't make much visual difference, but high settings used more VRAM and caused lag. I stuck with low. Then character texture quality. It looked a bit better on high and very high, but it's not worth the performance cost. I keep it low too. Then environment texture quality. It actually made a noticeable difference and didn't hurt performance much. I went with medium here and recommend that. Now visual effect texture quality. It affects things like explosion and smoke. The difference between medium and high was barely noticeable and VRAM stayed stable. So for 4GB GPUs, medium or high is fine. Finally, there is texture filtering. It sharpens surfaces viewed at angle, like roads or walls. Setting it to 16x cost me around 10%, but the clarity was worth it. I left it on a 16x. Let's move on to shadow quality. First is spotlight shadow resolution. It controls shadows from flashlight and lamps. It looked better on high with barely any FPS cost. Second is point light shadow resolution. It didn't show any difference in my test, but I kept it at high just in case. Then ambient shadows. It shows soft shadows under character, but had flickering issues at medium, so I went with high. Then directional shadow resolution like sun or moon shadows. It looked rough on low and medium. High worked best, while very high hurt FPS too much. Finally, directional shadow distance. It controls how far shadows are drawn. Past medium, I didn't notice any change in FPS, so I left it on high. Now for skin space shadows, which add fine shadow details. I tested all quality level and settled on high. Context shadows, which improve shadows on characters themselves, had almost no visual differences across settings. I left it at high too. Now image based lighting. It adds realistic surface reflection. Turning it off made everything look flat, so definitely keep this enabled. Then bounced lighting. It simulates indirect lighting like your flashlight bouncing off a wall. It cost around 10% FPS, but I kept it on since it looks great indoors. Disable it only if needed. Then we have ambient occlusion. It adds subtle depth in corners. Not very dramatic, but it helps and barely affect FPS. Leave it at quality. Next is real-time reflection quality. It affects mirror and shiny surfaces. I didn't see a big differences past medium but costing FPS, so I recommend staying there. Then screen space subsurface scattering. It makes skin look more natural. No big FPS hit, safe to keep it enabled. Next one is volumetric effect quality. It impacts fog and light shafts. Very high cost FPS dips, especially in foggy areas, so I went with high. Another one is lens flare. It doesn't cost much. Feel free to keep it at half resolution. It looks great. Now depth of field. It adds blur in cutscenes
There we go.
or when zoomed
I
in.
think it's still
No
good.
major FPS impact,
Just
so
keep
leave
it
it
there.
on if you like it. Finally, field of view. Be careful. Raising it can drop performance fast. Going from -10 to 0 cost me around 7 to 8% and +10 cost up to 10%. Adjust it based on what feels best for you. So that wraps up my full optimization guide for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered on a 4GB VRAM GPU. This is the first time I have made a detailed video like this. So if you found it helpful, please consider liking, sharing or even subscribing. It really helps me keep going. Before we wrap up, I have put together my whole settings, everything I tested. I'm gonna show it on the screen at the end of the video. So feel free to pause and
I
copy it
love
if you
about
are
that
looking
tattoo.
for a balanced mix of visual and
It's a
performance on a
wig of you.
4GB GPU like mine.
And I think she
Thanks
wants a
for
tattoo.
watching and I will see you in the next one.
Interesting. Shut up. Okay. You can tie Shimmer up here.